restrict the domain, and then find the inverse of f of x equals x minus 2 all squared minus 3. Going back to the toolkit functions again, we have a quadratic, which makes a parabola shape. It's 2 units to the right and 3 units down. So that's using the transformations of functions that we learned in the previous chapter. 2 to the right, 3 down. That's how we get this picture, and it's a parabola in shape. So how do you want to restrict your domain? It really doesn't matter which way you restrict it, as long as you tell which way you are restricting it. So let's just take the positive side. Let's take the positive side of this parabola, which means our x's need to start at 2, right? So we're going to do 2 to infinity as our domain. We have restricted the domain. Okay, now let's find the inverse. This is y, so we have x equals y minus 2 all squared minus 3. Okay, we need to add 3 to both sides. To get rid of the square, we need to, can't even see that, can we? We need to take the square root of both sides. When you take the square root, don't forget plus or minus. So we have plus or minus the square root of x plus 3 is equal to y minus 2. Then we add 2 to both sides. We get y is equal to plus or minus the square root of x plus 3 plus 2. And if you wanted to, you could put the 2 in the front. Doesn't matter either way. This kind of helps us see what's going on though. This is the square root function, so it makes that general shape. The positive one is just like this. The negative one would be flipped over. Okay, this means it goes 3 to the left and up 2. Right? 3 to the left and up 2. So how do we work this out then? How do we know if we want the positive side or the negative side? Go back to the domain that you defined. If this is your domain, 2 to infinity, that becomes the range of your inverse. So your range is going to be 2 to infinity. So what's the domain going to be? Well, look at the original. Again, domain was 2 to infinity. Range would be your y's. Where does this start? It starts at -3 and goes forever up. So the range up here is -3 to infinity. That becomes the domain of the inverse. So if we start at -3, I don't even have that on, well, we're about here-ish, -3, and it's going to go to infinity, so starting here and going this way, but the range is starting up here at 2. Our graph starts about here. It's this shape. It goes to the right forever and up forever. So it goes something like that. So I do have a better picture of that right here. This is our function, our original function, with the domain restricted to 2 to infinity. This is our function. The reflection across the y equals x line is here, this red one. So this represents our inverse function. So which one do we need? Do we need the positive one or do we need the negative one? This graph is upright. It's not flipped over, which means we need the positive one. So we have the square root of x plus 3 plus 2 is equal to y, which is our inverse function.